Hey everyone, Joe here. Well, today I'll talk about flash exposure. Now, if you're not familiar with using a flash or speed light, you've been thinking about getting into start using them, this tutorial is going to help you quite a bit. Now, this tutorial is going to go quite fast, so I apologize, but it's a lot of information to cover in a short amount of time. Okay, let's first start with our exposure triangles. Okay, let me get my magic marker out here. Now we know about the normal exposure triangle for ambient light. Write it correctly here. Okay. And that exposure triangle is much like this. At the top we have our ISO. Then we have our aperture. Then we have our shutter speed, which is normal, right? So we set our ISO, we set our aperture the way we want it, and we can adjust our shutter speed as we want. Or if we're shooting sports, we can set our shutter speed the way we want it, and adjust our aperture or ISO to get the shot we want. Okay, that's your normal ambient light. That's what we're all accustomed using. Okay, then we have our flash exposure, and the triangle is very similar. Okay, top we have ISO. Over here in this corner we still share aperture. But then over here on the side we have a new one, our flash power. Now what I mean by flash power is the amount of power that our flash is using. So we got 1:1 power, or we cut it down to 1/2 power, or 1/4 power. Now you're probably wondering, well, how does this actually affect anything? Okay. So our ISOs are locked in the same, apertures are locked in the same. So if we change our ISO, it affects our flash exposure as well as our ambient light exposure. Right there. And if we, like I said, we change our aperture, it also affects both our flash and our ambient light. So to control the ambient light, which is also the background, in most cases, depending on where you put your flash, and the flash exposure affects the foreground, or a model. How come the flash only affects the foreground? How come the shutter doesn't affect the flash? Okay, this has a lot to do with flash duration. Okay, so let's get into flash duration. At 1:1 power, flash duration anyway. At 1:1 power, most flashes have a 1/250th flash duration. Some go around to 1/400th. It depends on the make or model, they vary. But let's just say you have one of these two right here. Let's just say for the tutorial purpose, it's at 1/250th power. Okay, so if our shutter speed is at our normal, most widely used 1/200th second, our ISO is at 100, and our aperture is at say f8, and our flash power is at 1:1. So our flash power is at 1:1. It's still quicker than our shutter speed. Power. Well, most your flash power, it's anywhere between 1/900th or 1/1000th of a second. Let's just say 1/1000th for this tutorial, which that's fairly close. So if we're only using half power on our flash, it's going at 1/1000th of a second. So therefore, it's still way, way faster than our current shutter speed. So under normal shutter conditions, normal sync speed, the shutter is always too slow to affect the flash of power, causes the flash duration. And like I said, if we cut down to 1/4 power, this gets somewhere around 1/800, no, actually about 1/1800th to 1/2000th second. But for numbers' sake, we'll just say 1/2000th second. Like I said, Each flash, each strobe, they all really have their own speeds and the way they put out the light. But I'm giving this as a generic going off based on something like the 600EX. Okay. So your flash power, which should be your flash duration, is always faster, even at 1-to-1 power, than our normal sync speed. Okay. So now that we've got that out of the way, we understand that our shutter speed is always slower than our flash duration. We know that our flash is always affecting the foreground light, and our shutter speed is always to adjust the ambient light. Now you're probably asking, well, why doesn't the flash affect the background still? Well, this is because of the inverse square law. Now, let me pull out another little nice piece of paper I've already drawn up here. Okay, so here's our camera and our flash on top. Okay, we take a photo at 1-to-1 power, and our person is right here. Okay, well, if he's at 1 meter away or she's at 1 meter away, we get our proper exposure. Okay, if we're trying to shoot it to get f8, let's just say we got f8. Okay, but at 2 meters away, that power has not dropped by half, it's actually dropped to 1/4. It's called the inverse square law. And at 3 meters, it's already at 1/16 of power. So if you see our person right here, by the time you get down to the trees and the car in the background, the power has went down so low, it's not being picked up, or is so low it's not noticeably picked up, to say that. Because the light fall off keeps gradually going slower and slower, but it's weakening over time. It's just really abrupt drop off at front. It's also how you get a lot of low key shots. Okay, so that explains why the flash affects the foreground, ambient light is controlled by shutter. Okay, we're almost done. Now I want to go into a little bit on high speed sync. Okay, because the high speed sync is a little bit of its own little monster in itself. Okay, now we both know about our shutter speeds, and we just talked about that. Now I'm going to go over it just a little bit more to kind of reiterate. At normal shutter speeds, your shutter's covered. Okay, when it's opened all the way up on a normal full sync speed, or normal sync, the camera has a moment where it has the shutter is fully opened, and none of the curtains, the first or second curtain, is covering the sensor. This is your normal sync speed. Okay, on a high speed sync though, when the first curtain goes up, the second curtain is closely following by. So there's never a moment where the shutter speed is open enough that the flash can flash on it and it not cause black streaks going across your sensor. So if you've ever took your camera and say stuck it on 1/400th of a second and try to take a picture with under normal sync speeds, not using high speed sync, and you get the dark spots on top and on the bottom of your photo, this is why. Okay, but under high speed syncing, you got to have high speed sync equipped flashes to do this. When the first one opens up and the other starts trailing behind, your flash is firing constantly across the entire sensor. So this is also why high speed sync really eats your batteries up and can wear out a flash. It's very helpful when you're trying to take really fast aperture exposures, to get really nice bokeh like during the daytime, but you still need flash and you need to use something faster, say 1/200th of a second on your camera to get the exposure on your ambient light down. High speed sync can be really helpful for that. But anyway, I hope this tutorial has helped everybody. Hope it explains, the flash exposure triangles for both, the flash and your ambient light, how one controls the other. I know a lot of people don't really want to explain this too much, but I thought it'd be a really helpful tutorial. And for me to start doing a lot of portrait tutorials on my channel this year, I thought it'd be quite helpful. So anyway, that's it for this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Thumbs up is always highly appreciated. And if you're not a subscriber to my channel, please take the time to subscribe. Subscribing is free, it's for you, and let you know when I release more videos. Until next time, everyone, thank you for watching.